It's important to have mentors. When I use a word you guys don't understand, what happens to your hand?
Goes up.
It goes up, absolutely. How about that word vicarious? I said, yeah, very good, okay. So I'm going to tell you a story. What's a vicar? Anybody know a vicar? It's part of an organization that tries to maintain itself and often has one day a week where the members of the organization get together and they sing songs, drink wine, well, in some religions. So basically, a vicar is someone within a religion, and he lives under certain guidelines, such as maybe he can't sleep with every woman he sees. Tiger Woods is not a vicar, right? He has to quell some of those impulses. And within the particular religion that vicars operate, there's this process where he sits in a little box and someone else sits in a little box. And there's a little screen, so he can't tell who it is. Oh, confession, right. So while this playboy is giving his account of what happened last weekend, oh, forgive me, Father, for it's been 14 hours since my last confession. And man, what I did in the last 14 hours, let me tell you. So the poor vicar has to listen to this and say, okay, 14 Hail Marys, and please don't do that again. I promise not to tell your wife. He is experiencing something without having to experience it. In other words, he knows exactly, because this guy has told him in depth how he felt, what the drug was like, the whole thing, so clearly that you have experienced it vicariously. And so this is how I remember it. It means that the vicar cannot, that's the word vicar. The vicar, the bishop, the priest, can't do it, but he's heard it so carefully, and he's asked questions, and he understands the situation so well, he experienced it in his mind. Like, I've never been to Rio de Janeiro, but I interview every person who comes from there. I teach English as a second language in a school in downtown Fort Lauderdale. And whenever I get a Brazilian in, I say, oh, let's get a picture of your city and tell me about your city. And I've had, 45 people do this for me? It's an exercise to show their fluency. And I can tell you where the places are to go. There's a good restaurant. I don't know the name of it, but I know it's right next to the beach on this side. So when I go there, it'll be like, how do you know all this stuff? It's like you've been here 5 times already. I've experienced it vicariously. Now, I just spent 10 minutes telling you about this fabulous word, vicariously. I think you'll remember this better than if you had gone through a list and circled this word and said, okay, I'm going to memorize this definition. And then 3 weeks later, you look at the list again. You say, oh, I can't remember this vicarious. And you look at the definition. Oh, yeah, I remember this now. I mean, this is the way a lot of people memorize. They don't make it active because they're not asking people, how do you remember this word? That transfers. Do you guys know about synapses and neurons? Synapse, neuron?
The space between.
This is how they're spelled. Synapse and neuron. When you're born, you get lots of little neurons. They're kind of like cells. Every time you have a thought, every time you have an emotion, every time you have some sort of interaction with the world, the neurons communicate to each other, and they build little bridges. Those bridges are synapses. Over time, if you don't review it, those little synapses disappear. You know, they get absorbed. Well, because you traveled down that road once, and in 10 years you haven't used that road again. We're efficient. We're going to move that synapse to another place. However, if you start popping up, and you go to your mom and say, "Hey, what's this word synapse?" Vicarious. And she says, "I don't know." And you say, "Mom, can you go look it up and then tell me what you understand?" You know, participate, right? And then she'll come back and say, "Oh, okay. I didn't know this before, but it kind of means like you go through an experience without having to do it yourself. You just listen to some story." So maybe she explains it a little differently than I just did. So now you have 2 stories. You've gotten some extra synapses. If you then come in here and you say, "Steve, I got this great story that my mom's told me about vicarious." And if you tell me that, you've just gone over that synapse and made it stronger. So that's one of the reasons why we have memories, is because we linger on something and you really get to know it. You look deeply into that girlfriend's eyes because you want to memorize her face. Yeah, right? Because you know, you're going to break up with her at the end of the evening, so you just want to remember what she looks like, right? You're never going to see her again, right? Or you're going to break up by text. I hear that's the way people do it now. It's kind of cold, but you know, hey, we got to protect our. My last memory was that she was smiling, right? So my tip number 41 is build your synapses. They've actually shown that you can grow neurons, but you build synapses with a team of storytellers. This means you're going to get everybody's email here. Right? You walked in with 2 very nice women, and so I'm assuming you can ask them for their emails. Got 2 guys here. I've been talking with them. They're not terrorists, and they definitely do not look as though they're running from the law. Okay, so I think it's safe for them. I'm also offering you a list of college graduates. Remember, I teach English as a second language. And you might think, "Steve, why should I correspond with someone who doesn't know English very well?"